the school run this afternoon, I was really intrigued when I heard about this particular initiative. get this, 60 North London schools are becoming smartphone free. Now, look, we've all heard it, haven't we? And as much as I try, I struggle with this. To stay off my phone. But we know the benefits of keeping off of our phones for concentration, but also for our mental health. So no surprises then that teachers are saying they do not want them in the classroom. But what's this whole concept around banning them entirely? Well, joined on the line now with Nova Eden, who is the North London Regional Lead for Smartphone Free Childhood Campaign. Great to have you on BBC Radio London, Nova, and thank you for joining me. I have to be honest, and I feel like I can only have this conversation with you by laying it all bare, if you will, in the fact that with my 7-year-old daughter, no matter how much I try, there are many times in the week where she will use a smartphone. I suspect you probably speak to many parents who go through that. It's a difficult act to balance to try and keep your child away from a smartphone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here today. I think that as parents, we've all been put into an impossible position by tech companies because we all feel pressured to conform to the social norm of giving our child a smartphone. And the issue that we are facing is that no parent wants their child to feel socially isolated during a crucial stage of their development.
But then what does one do? Because I was really intrigued with the fact that it's not just one school here. 60 schools are working together now to ban smartphones. I mean, that's quite a social change, because if you've got a cousin in a different school in the same borough and they don't have a phone and you don't have a phone, it kind of becomes commonplace then, doesn't it? It feels like this is levelling the playing field here.
Absolutely. So our campaign is encouraging parent communities to stand together to delay the purchase of smartphones and to delay children having access to social media. But what we found is when schools and parent communities are collaborating and working collectively, we're really accelerating meaningful change.
So can you talk to me about the practicalities though? How does this work? What I want to know is this primary school or secondary school? And then how is this going to work? What will happen? Do pupils go into school and hand in their phones? Just talk me through all of that.
Sure. So in primary schools, it's quite easy. We know that children under age of 11 should not be having smartphones. We know that sort of ages 10 to 13 are the most dangerous ages for children to have smartphones and access to social media. So for primary schools, it's sort of head teachers are now coming together to say no smartphones are allowed at school. And that means that if any child is sort of traveling independently, then they can have a brick phone or a flip phone, but no smartphones will be allowed at school. Obviously, it's a slightly different challenge for secondary schools because a lot of those children already have smartphones. But what we're seeing in secondary schools now is that they are introducing Yonder pouches or lockers, which means that the students, when they come in the morning, they're handing their phones in and they've got them sort of locked away for the duration of the day, which means that they can't be distracted, and then they get them back at the end of the school day.
I have to say something to you. It might sound controversial, but there'll be many parents who are going to say, thank goodness you're the villains and we're not.
Well, yes, we're definitely here to sort of support parents who are struggling. We know when you hand a smartphone to a child, we know how addictive these phones are. And children will tell you themselves in schools where sort of smartphones are allowed to remain in bags, they or other children that they know are still sort of sneaking in and looking at their phones or using them at break time or lunchtime. So I think that, parents are very, very grateful for schools speaking up now and saying, we really want our children to be smartphone free whilst they're at school.
It just makes it easier, and I'm coming at this and I'm not in any way, shape or form trying to say that my 7-year-old dictates everything to me. But you know what it's like. There are times where as a parent, you just cave in when your child is relentless. You've got to cook dinner. You've got to get them to the next after school club and you think, fine, have the phone. But actually, by putting this in place, that it's the schools taking the lead, it really does place that pressure off the parents, doesn't it?
It does. And I think that, when we first started giving children smartphones a decade ago, there was no research on the impact. But now there is, and it's overwhelming. The research is showing alarming and rising levels of anxiety and depression and self-harm and tragically suicides in children. And a recent study by Global Mind Project also highlighted that the younger a child gets given a smartphone, the worse their mental health outcome is. We know that teenagers are spending up to 9 hours a day on screens, 5 hours a day on social media, and getting 237 notifications per day, every day. So
Goodness.
Gen Z are growing up in an uncontrolled experiment, and it's causing a mental health epidemic.
I mean, that's quite something, Nova. Because if I'm in the studio I'm in right now, firstly, it could not place 253 people, and even if it did, I wouldn't quite know where to look or what to do with 253 people. But that's literally what you're doing by having 253 notifications on a child's phone at any time during the day. How on earth is a child going to be able to concentrate? That's what you're basically saying here.
That's exactly right. One of our goals with the Smartphone Free Childhood campaign is to empower as many schools as possible to go smartphone free as soon as possible, because It's clear that eliminating smartphones from schools will have a positive impact on children's mental health and academic performances.
You've mentioned it. I want to talk about it. Tomorrow, 10th of October, is World Mental Health Day. So this feels like the right time to be discussing a topic that, to be honest, I don't know about yourself, but growing up, I never heard about, the support that was around mental health, or even the fact of getting some form of therapy. It's important for us to understand, isn't it, that children also will have difficult times and will require support with their mental health. Some of that can just be because of how detrimental the smartphones are for them.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't really about head teachers telling parents what to do. This is about enforcing a legitimate boundary with what's acceptable on school premises, something that probably should have been in place all along. Children should not be taking a device into school which is incompatible with child safety.
Can I ask you, Nova, have you had any pushback from either parents or schools around this? Has there been anyone who said, no, actually, I think my child's fine with a smartphone during the school day?
So the main pushback that we've sort of had is from parents whose children already have smartphones. And I think one concern is sort of, well, my child needs maps to be able to sort of navigate around. And, I completely understand that for children who are sort of navigating unfamiliar journeys, perhaps on the weekend, that, these apps are very useful. But for a child who's walking to and from school for a journey that they know very well, they don't need smartphones to navigate that. They're perfectly safe with a brick phone or a flip phone, which will enable them to, make calls or messages to their parents. And it doesn't have the dangers of having the internet in a child's pocket for 12 hours a day where strangers can reach them.
Just finally, Nova, because I appreciate you may well need to get on that school run very soon. If there's a parent, they're not in the North London region, but they want their school to take part in this smartphone free childhood campaign, what is there anything they can do? Is there a website? What can they be doing? Would you recommend?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of resources on our website, Smartphone Free Childhood, and it helps you to sort of shows you how to set up a community WhatsApp group for your area, for your school, and it gives you lots of tips and tools in how to sort of create momentum within your parent community. There's also, we are launching the Smartphone Free Schools this Thursday, which there's a national head teachers webinar. So, for head teachers to join that would be fantastic. So to really sort of gain the galvanize further support from head teachers. And, we're really sort of growing exponentially, and we'd love to have, parents on board.
That's fantastic that, as you say, parents can recommend this to their school if they're not taking part in it. Nova, such a pleasure having you here in Radio London. Will you come back again? I'd like to follow up and find out how this is all going.
Absolutely,
with this,
it would be a pleasure.
Thank
you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Great having you on Radio London. Nova Eden, who's the North London regional leader for the Smartphone Free Childhood campaign. 60 North London schools becoming smartphone free. Quite something that primary, secondary, state, private schools, all getting on board with this campaign. Now, if you'd like more details, if you're a parent, grandparent, you are a carer and you're thinking, actually, this is really of interest to me, I want to speak to my school about this. As Nova's mentioned, best thing to do, I've just had a look at their website as well. I've been through it this morning. There's a lot of resources on there. So go to smartphonefreechildhood.co.uk. That's smartphonefreechildhood.co.uk. She did mention, didn't she, Nova, about this Head Teachers Forum that's taking place tomorrow. So if it's something you would like your head teacher to be aware of, again, I would suggest the best thing, as Nova mentioned, give them the website details, smartphonefreechildhood.co.uk for more details.